Welcome back to Brotherhood and Banter. I'm Mark.
And I'm Joey. And you can see here we have Mike McGrath with us. This is a friend of mine, Mike, and Mike is well, he and I worked together in church for quite some time.
Yeah.
He was a bishop for one of our wards in our stake, and then from there he's now serving as a JustServe specialist, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mike lives in Mallet, and we're all around the same area. But let me give you a little bit of background on Mike. I'm going to read his bio here, okay? So Mike began working for Lockheed Missiles and Space in Sunnyvale, California in 1980. Over the next 43 years, the company, now Lockheed Martin, went through several changes and restructuring, and Mike and his wife, Frances, and their 9 children moved around the country to work on many interesting and fun space programs. They ended up in Garland, Texas, and are now retired. Their children are now spread around Mississippi, Texas, Colorado, Utah, and Hawaii. I didn't realize that until I read this. They now have 15 grandsons and 15 granddaughters and a cat and a beagle. And a cat and a beagle.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have 30 grandchildren.
Yes. So they can't have any more because that would break the number. That would
Yeah.
break the tie.
So just keep it at 15 boys,
Yeah.
15 girls, and a beagle and a cat.
Well, I actually have a son that will be married this fall, and they would like to have children. So they've got to have at least one of each.
Yeah, there. That's right. That way you'll keep it balanced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself, Mike. Like I said, I know you and I served together when you were a bishop and then you were a high counselor.
Yeah. Yeah. So over the course of my working career, my bio said that I moved around. After working for 10 years with Lockheed Missiles and Space in California, went with a program for the company out to rural Mississippi, which is really kind of odd. You wouldn't think that you'd have a space company, a big company like Lockheed Martin working in rural Mississippi. But I went on to a program where we were going to build solid rocket motors for the space shuttle program. And this was after the Challenger accident in the 80s. NASA decided they wanted to have their own manufacturing facility to make rocket motors. That way, if they were unhappy with the contractor that was making the motors, they kick them out and get a new contractor in their facility to make a motor. So I went onto that program and stayed on that for 5 or 6 years, and then moved down to Slidell, Louisiana, where I was working in New Orleans East at the Michoud Assembly Facility. And that's where we were making the external tanks for the shuttle. That's the big orange tank. And when you look at that, you like and say, well, that's not a very complicated thing. It's just a big tank. Well, it is very complicated because it's a liquid oxygen tank sitting on top of a liquid hydrogen tank. And hydrogen and oxygen, when they mix, they become flammable. So you don't want those two things mixing. So you've got this little oxygen tank, and it's liquid. So as the tank is moving up through the air on the transportation system, on the shuttle system, liquids tend to slosh back and forth. Well, you can't have that because then it's going to make the shuttle go off course. So they've got these baffles in there that control how much sloshing goes back and forth and stuff. They've got things called downcomers. So you've got coming out of the liquid oxygen tank, you've got these big tubes that go down, or like hoses that go down and feed the exit cone. And you got the same thing happening with the hydrogen tank. And when it gets down to the exit cone, that's where they mix and that's where they burn.
And that was all in rural Mississippi?
No, the rural Mississippi, we were building those 2 motors that go on the side, that strap onto the side of that tank.
Got it.
So no, down in New Orleans, we were building that
you were
big
in
tank.
Slidell. That's right.
Yeah, I was in Slidell working at New Orleans East. So
you
I did that
so much
until
about rockets. I feel I'm more interested in finding out how rockets work now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You want to be a rocket scientist?
That'd be fun. I would love that.
Yeah. People would say, well, it's not rocket scientist. Well, science. Well, yeah, it is. So it was actually very interesting. And I didn't have a degree in aeronautics. My degree was actually in software. So,
So that's
so
for me then to become a rocket scientist after all.
yeah, you could do that. You could do that. So the reason I got into it was because they were looking for someone to handle automation of this new facility that we were building in Mississippi. And well, automation that really takes a software type of guy, an IT guy. And because we were building a facility that had rail guided vehicles and, vehicles that would automatically run around the facility with parts guided by wires inside the floor and things like that. So it was a really interesting project, and I learned a lot from that
Very nice.
project, and that allowed me to go down to Michoud and work on that program because I learned enough about how the manufacturing process goes that I could go do that there. So I worked there in New Orleans East, living across the lake over in Slidell until Katrina hit.
I
And
want to talk about that too,
okay,
but I'll come back to Katrina and Slidell because that is where Mike and I began this conversation, and which is why I asked him to come and join us. But but thank you for that introduction, Mike. But I want so now tell us a little bit about JustServe, and
okay,
yeah, and let's start there, and then let's go into tell us about Taminisha, the Heart of
okay.
Service Award, right?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So JustServe is really a platform. It's like it resides on your phone or on your laptop or any device. And when you click on it, it tells you there are opportunities to serve your community local to you. And here's all the different things. So what do you want to go do? What do you and your family, or what do you want to go do? And how do you want to serve your community? And so my job is to populate the data there that says, well, here's a program over here's a nonprofit organization. They need volunteers to help out doing this. And I'll make that a project and I'll post it on the JustServe platform. So currently we've got I think I've got about 40 organizations that I work with in my local area. And I just keep adding projects to the platform so that people can go in, and that way they don't have to try to find something themselves. They can say, well, here's an easy way. We can go do a morning project on a Saturday morning, going out doing this, working at a food bank or at a soup kitchen, or going to a local cemetery and just recording headstones, who is buried here, that kind of thing. So these are all good projects that I think are very worthy of our support and our time. And we just try to make it, we try to make that link between the organization that needs volunteers and then those people that want to go and volunteer.
So
And
who puts the projects on there? It's you or the organization or
the
both?
organization can do it themselves
Okay.
if I train them on how to do it. And
Or
that's
otherwise
really
we give it to you.
that's the way I would like to go. So we're going more and more that way. But if it's just an organization that just has one thing, it's not going to be worth it for them to learn how to do it and post their own. And then because when they post their own, I have to review it anyway and approve it. So it's not that much more work for me to just do it myself. So on the one-offs, I do it. If it's something that's ongoing and they have a bunch of things that they want to do, I'll train them on how to do it themselves. And that way they're responsible, or they're in control of what they get posted.
Okay. Cool.
Now with Taminisha is a volunteer organizer for Zion Baptist Church in Rowlett, which is only a half a block away from where our local Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints building is. That's the one that you and I both attend. So, and Taminisha has got in touch with me and said, here, there's a bunch of things that we do, and I heard about JustServe. Can we put these on your website or on your platform? And we have, and she's got a lot of projects that she does, and she's a volunteer too. So anytime that she puts into it, that's her time. She doesn't get paid for doing that, but the quality of the work that she does, the postings that she makes, it's just been really wonderful, and it's given us locally an opportunity to go in and help her on some of her projects. So she had one last fall that I attended and helped out with. It was excellent. It was a community block party and a wellness fair. And I was amazed at how many local organizations, hospitals, clinics, American Red Cross. She had all kinds of organizations there that set up booths that people could walk around. They did screenings and blood pressure and all that kind of stuff. So, and it was very well attended. They have a field out behind their church, and it was just full of cars. It was excellent. And she put in a lot of time and a lot of work into that. And then she because we volunteered for that, we got linked up, and they have a twice a month drive-through food distribution.
Yeah.
And that's very well attended, but they need volunteers to go out on Saturday mornings twice a month. And so we got involved in that, and I've helped out with that, and it's been very rewarding. And when you serve, you just get a great feeling that you've done something that's important, that has actually helped somebody. So I love serving there with them on that. But she organizes that. She had a thing in the spring where it was classes, and she invited some of us from our church to participate in that and to give some of the classes. And she allowed me to set up a table for JustServe so that anybody attending it was open to the community. Anyone attending could come and see what JustServe was about, and I could give them information on that. So, and then because it's 2025, 2026,
2026.
250 year celebration of the country, JustServe created a new award called the America 250 JustServe Hero of Service Award, and it's
Hero of Service. Is that what you said? Hero of Service?
Yeah, Hero of Service. And so my first thought was, well, I'm going to nominate Taminisha for this because she does so much. She's just volunteers so much of her time and does such a wonderful job, and she's so friendly, and I just wanted to recognize her and honor her for all the work she did. So yeah, I talked to her pastor, Pastor David Griggs, and told him what I wanted to do, and he said that would be fantastic. He said she's certainly deserving of something like that. And he said, but could you do it instead of just doing it personally? Could you do it in front of our congregation? So he gave me time yesterday to come to their worship service, and he introduced me, and I got up and presented the award to Taminisha, and her fellow congregation members were just super excited about it and couldn't get them to stop clapping for her. They just wanted to keep going on and on. So it was very fun. It was a great opportunity to fellowship with members of another congregation. I really enjoyed it. It's a little bit different than the worship service at our church, but it was super
awesome.
super fun.
How did you get that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, it seems like JustServe really makes an impact with many people. What has been the most memorable project that you've seen?
We did one last spring that we used. Actually, we kind of co-opted it. They had it posted, and it was for a company, organization called Sleep in Heavenly Peace, and their motto is no child sleeps on the floor in our town. And I didn't really think about this, or I wasn't aware of it, but there are lots of children that have never slept in a bed of their own.
Really? In our community?
Even now in our community, you would not think this, but there are a lot of children that sleep on the floor, or there's, multiple kids in a single bed, or they're sleeping, they don't have a bed of their own. So the project was to to build all of the material, all of the parts needed to assemble a bed, a single bed for a child. And that was a lot of fun. So they had a lot of the Sleep in Heavenly Peace had a lot of the materials donated to them. They had a lot of tools. So we didn't have to bring anything. We just showed up, and we had a lot of people in the parking lot at the church, cutting wood, drilling wood, assembling things, getting it all ready, and then stored into they hauled it off in a trailer for later delivery. So they've got one coming up, another project coming up in 2 Saturdays from now. And that's to take all the materials over to different locations throughout the area and assemble beds where they're needed. So first we got to make all the materials, and now we get to assemble all the materials. And
you divide up into teams and go distribute the beds,
yeah,
right?
teams of 4 to 6 will go out and deliver the materials and assemble them, and then move on to the next site. So, and the way it was, I talked to the organizer of this for our local area. He actually lives in Waxahachie, which is not that close to us, but he comes in and helps out with this. And he said, he said, I know you felt good about building this stuff, the build-a-bed part of it, but the delivery part of it, that's where all where you get all of the real satisfaction out of this, because you actually see the kids. And he said, when you're there and you're building a bed for them and put a mattress on it and all the sheets and stuff, and the child lays down on it and they say, I've got my own bed. First time I've ever had my own bed. He said, it just melts your heart. You just feel like this is what the Lord wants us to do. He wants us to serve. So it does. It makes your heart feel good that you're able to do that for some child. That there's other projects I worked on too, and that we've posted that are really good. But that's the one that, for me, that when someone asks me my favorite project, that was my favorite project.
Let's pause real quickly. Mark, are you getting his? I'm hearing an issue on his audio. Are you hearing it or no?
Hearing it too, but I don't think it's going to be a problem because he'll have the local upload,
Okay,
which should be okay in the end.
all
Okay.
right, cool, excellent. Okay, and so my question now is: so JustServe, who can put? Is it any organization? Is it individuals that can put different types, and who can go serve in these projects?
Yeah, anyone can go serve, but to post it on the platform, you have to be
You have to have an account.
a registered nonprofit organization.
Okay.
Yeah, 501(c) organization.
Okay.
If you're not, then you have to go and try to become one.
So I can't
So
just go post and say, "Hey, can you guys come clean my yard?"
no, but we'll do that for an organization. So if the organization says, we've got this facility and it's all run by volunteers, and this is what we do, but we need some help mowing our lawn. We're helping with landscaping or whatever. So we've got a couple of those posted right now. And I'm really excited because the organizations are very worthy. I'm thinking of one that I just posted last week, and that's one of their projects. They said, we just don't have anybody, we don't have the time to go out there and do it. So we have to rely on the community to come and help us out with our landscaping and upkeep and that kind of thing, and maintenance projects. And so I've got those posted, but the organization actually brings in abused children that are taken out of the home, out of the situation that they're in, and they're waiting for foster care or waiting for, some other place, a family member or someone to come. And that's just I think, a very worthwhile program in our community. And, that's another one where you don't really think that, well, is that really a problem in our area? It is. It is. There's sex trafficking, there's child abuse, there's so much that goes on that you just don't know about. And here's an organization that helps out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, I'm gonna switch gears. Let me see if you have any other questions before I switch gears with him. I'm gonna go to the Slidell and Hurricane Katrina.
Question.
Okay.
So having worked in JustServe, has it helped other organizations that might have not had good contact to us or didn't? I've heard there are some organizations out there and churches that believe that we're not Christians. Has JustServe and working with them and serving with them, has that helped?
I believe it has. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Even on my own little experience, I've only been doing this for a couple of years now, but even in my limited experience, the project that Taminisha did in our building got outside members outside of our church into our building and seeing that's a picture of Christ. Oh, there's Christ kneeling in the Garden of Gethsemane. I was told that they didn't believe in Christ, or that they believe in a different Christ, or that they weren't Christians. That's what I'm hearing. Well, we're showing them that that's not, who you're being told we are is not who we are. So it's helped out a lot, yeah, in that way. And I think a lot of times people will say, well, just serve. You're a volunteer. Who did this? Who's getting paid for this? Someone obviously is getting paid. No, nobody's getting paid for this. It doesn't make any money. No one gets paid. It's all volunteer. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints put up the funding to put this all together, but they're doing it so that there's no cost to any organization, no cost to any individual that wants to volunteer. So
That's
now, as
awesome.
far as Joey, as far as who can volunteer, anybody can volunteer. Some projects are, not all projects are the same. Some require an adult. Some can allow youth, but may require adult supervision. And then there's others that can have a whole family, no matter what the age is. So all you do is you go in and you say, well, I'm looking at you, and it has a filter. You can go in and say, I'm looking for something that my children can work at, that's indoors and is within 5 miles of my house. And it will filter through that and give you any project that comes out without meeting those criteria.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks
Mhm.
for sharing that with us. So I'm going to switch gears now. And Marc, this part is how I got to chatting with Mike, and I asked him to come and talk about this initially, but then we were talking about JustServe, and then yesterday I experienced the Taminisha receiving her award, and that was awesome. So I wanted him to cover that first. But let me go into for the next few minutes. I'm gonna introduce a little something. This is something I saw. It was so cool. Okay, so when Katrina hit, I was living in Houston, and a question for you, Marc. Have you been? Because you've only been in Texas for what, 7 years?
I've been here for almost 13.
Third. Okay, never mind.
So I was here and I went out go mucking twice.
Okay,
Good.
Yeah.
so then
Yeah.
yeah. So with Katrina, this is a fun. The reason I wanted to ask Mike to tell this because I saw it from one side, and Mike saw it from another side. But he kind of completed the story. So let me share real quickly what I saw from our side. When our stake went in to go help out after Katrina hit, we went to Slidell. And when we got to Slidell, well, when we went, we were told to bring everything, be self-sufficient. We got to bring food, our own water, our own cooking materials, everything. And even we take the trash back out. And then we got in, and where we went to this stake center, there was rows and rows of chainsaws and the cover for protective gear. And I was surprised. I'm like, man, this is crazy. This is you had to have been prepared for this in order to have rows and rows. And all we had to do was sign in and check it out. And then so we came over there and we saw that, and that amazed me. And then the second thing is then we were given orders, our orders, our paper orders to go house to house, or not house to house, but to go take care of these houses. And we were told that we take care of our members, and then the elderly and first responders. So we took care of this house, and after that, we went to another house, and it was the house of a first responder. And there was a massive tree that was down, and we were cutting that. I mean, we had 22-inch chainsaws, and it couldn't go all the way through. It was a massive tree, and it was tall and fat. As we were cutting it down, and the guy came, there was this guy. He just showed up. He was in a police car. And as he stepped out of the car, he starts crying. And we're like, what is going on? And as he walked up to us, he was just thanking people. By the time he got to me, I realized that this was his house. And he was just crying. And he said, I've been at work for the last, I think, several days, like 5 or 6 days. And he says, he goes, I knew I had damage at my house, but I couldn't come back to do it because I was at work. I had to go to work. He was a police officer, and I really saw that serving part, right? We were there, and he was just crying and crying and crying because he appreciated the work we were doing. But all we did was from our standpoint, we were just cleaning a tree or cutting up trees and clearing his yard and helping out. But from his standpoint, it was everything because he didn't know where to turn to. He didn't know who was gonna help out with his house. And then he comes back, and there was a crew of 14 men at his house. And just when we did his whole house that afternoon. I think we did it in 6 hours and cleared the entire yard. And he just came home, and then he went back. And then the other thing I wanted to share was that I'm going to share all these cool, fun things, and I'm going to ask Mike to share this portion that he kind of connected the story. So the other thing is when we came, as we were stopped, the ambulance or wherever we were working, the ambulance came and they would say, "Hey, we have water for you." "Oh, we're fine." "We have sandwiches for you." "Oh, we're fine." And they were like, they said, "No, these are for you guys." We said, "Oh, we brought our own food," and they said, and they realized, well, we weren't wearing our yellow shirts. Not all of us had yellow helping hands shirts at the time, and the lady said, "Hey, so I see you guys are with the Mormon Helping Hands." That time it said Mormon Helping Hands. And we said, "Yeah." And they go, "That is so awesome. You guys are the ones that you're not taking any of our," and we said, "Yeah, we were told to come and be self-sufficient, bring everything." And and so they were very appreciative of that. But so I'm gonna stop there. But I want Mike share the part about the chainsaws because that was amazing to me that everything was there for us to just check out.
Yeah. So within our ward boundaries for the church, we had a bishop storehouse, and it was a brand new one. It maybe 2 years old at the time, but it was big. It was big, had a big warehouse area. It was very nice to work in. And because it was in our ward, we had two people called, a husband and wife called to be the bishop storehouse directors. And so our ward members, obviously got lots of chance to serve at the bishop's storehouse. And I didn't pay too much attention to what was actually in the warehouse part of it, other than when I needed to go back and get a pallet of this food or whatever. But about a year, about in 2004, I think it was, we had a hurricane scare in the area. And typically what happens with hurricanes when they come in, people are so used to this because it happens, at least once a year, seem like they would say, yeah, well, we'll just watch the weather and nothing's going to come of it. And no, we don't plan on leaving or anything like that. But this one scared some people. And so over the course of the next year, the warehouse started getting stocked with chainsaws and wood called lath that are, I think, 1x2s and tarps, blue tarps and gas cans. And I started thinking, well, I guess this is good, but why do we need so many of these? This is good for if someone's tree falls down on their house or something, but why do we need so many of these? Well, then I found out why we needed them because Katrina hit and there was no way to get any of this stuff. And in fact, when Katrina hit, I had evacuated it hit on the Sunday morning, early Sunday morning. My family evacuated that Sunday morning, about 1 a.m. We started heading up to northeast Mississippi where my son was living, and we were going to just stay with him overnight and then come back down when it was all clear and nothing was happening. Well, it was so devastating in the area that we weren't allowed to come back in, and they said, no, there's power lines down, roads are closed, there's water, snakes and alligators and stuff all over the place. We don't want any residents of the area back in. We need to let emergency services come in and start clearing the way out of here. So I put up with that for about 2 days, and then I decided, no, I think we could get back in. So my wife and I drove back down and got there, and of course, power is out everywhere except some people had stayed, and they were at the Bishop's storehouse and had a big generator, and they had that going. So they had power, they had AC, and they had all of these chainsaws, all this material there. And so they took it out of there, brought it over to the stake center, which is where they staged for everybody to come in and help out in crews. But the stipulation was, if you live here, we don't want you on these volunteer crews. We don't want you in Mormon helping hands. That's for people that don't live here, because you don't have the ability to live in your house right now. Nobody does. So what I did was I took my wife back and came back up to northeast Mississippi. I drove back down that night and slept in Bishop's storehouse because it was cool, and there were some cots there. That's the other thing they had in the storehouse on the shelves. They had a bunch of cots, so we were able to take those over to the stake center and have some place for workers to sleep when they came in to volunteer. Then, because we had food, there were emergency services people that were required to stay there in the area, even though their homes some of them were destroyed. So they were sleeping in hospitals. There were no hotels open at the time. I don't know where everyone was sleeping, but we were asked by troop headquarters to open up the Bishop storehouse and make boxes like essentials for the emergency services people, the police, the hospital, the doctors and nurses, fire, all power, all of those people that needed to be there. So we started broadcasting that. The word got out that they could go get food, they could go get soap, shampoo, water, whatever they needed to survive while they were there
And
working.
this was from the Bishop storehouse?
This is in the Bishop storehouse, yeah. So my job, so what I did, since I was still there, I got asked by the state president, could you run the Bishop storehouse? Because the directors weren't in the area anymore. So could you run the Bishop storehouse? And here's what I need. I need you to write service orders for the Mormon Helping Hands volunteers when they come in. So that's what I did. And those papers that you got, Joey, I wrote those papers. So that was my job. But then people would come in and say, we were told that we could come here and get some food. And they were the emergency services people, and so we had boxes made up for them. And I'll tell you, it was more than one person that said, "Why are you guys here? What is this thing? I didn't know this was even here. What is this? And why did you have all this food here? And why did you have these chainsaws? How'd you have all this material here?" I said, well, we had a scare a year ago. And so it was decided there's a prophet of the church, and the prophet said, we need to be ready in Slidell, Louisiana at the Bishop storehouse to help that area there. And we did. We had satellite phones, even when the police and the fire department could not communicate with each other, couldn't communicate outside of the area because cell phone towers were down and landlines were knocked out. They knew to come over. They were told, go over to the Bishop storehouse of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They've got a sat phone. You need to call out to your family, or you need to call out to other stations. you can do that on their sat phone. And so we kept that phone up the whole time. And again, why did you guys do this? We don't even have this. We're emergency services and we don't even have this capability. And well, Prophet knew we needed to do this. So it was very good. Worked
I
out
love it.
we were not allowed to proselyte. We couldn't teach the gospel at that time. They said, you are not here to preach the gospel. You are here to serve the people. So
Yeah. And that's okay. That's how we
it's
were
okay.
preaching the gospel. We were serving, right?
And our missionaries in the area, they didn't get called. They didn't get taken away. They stayed, and they converted their missions from proselyting missions into service missions. So
that's awesome.
they got rid of the shirts and ties, and they had the Mormon Healthy Hands T-shirts, and they were out working with the other volunteers coming into the area.
Yeah, I remember that. They were working with us because they
Yeah,
only had their yellow shirts, but they had name tags over
yeah,
the yellow shirts. I
yeah,
thought,
yeah,
man, that's so
exactly.
cool. That is so cool. I didn't even think of that because that never happened on my mission. So,
Yeah.
yet because it was not just a 1 day thing, right? I mean, on my
Oh
mission,
yeah,
we did service, but Katrina, it was multi-month.
yeah.
And
It was the middle. It was the beginning and the end of August, beginning of September, and it was still hot, and there was no power for 6 weeks. No air conditioning. We did get water earlier than that. We weren't out of water for 6 weeks, but yeah, power. And then when it did come on, it would go back off the next day, and you know, typical of any disaster where they start rebuilding substations and they've got to take them back down to work on another part. So yeah, it
that
was
is awesome.
frustrating, but very, very emotional too,
Yeah, it
to
So
see
I
was.
the
have a
devastation.
question. Having been involved in all these amazing things, how has being part of JustServe and seeing what you've seen, how has it changed you, your perspective on service, and your testimony?
Oh yeah, well, obviously, prior to that, I was always looking for, with my 9 children, my 5 boys, I was always looking for projects that we could go do, and lived in that Slidell area. When we moved in there, they had a standing thing where they were helping with Habitat for Humanity. And our awards project was to do roofing. So we did all the roofing for all the Habitat for Humanity homes that were built there in that area. And the reason I was so glad of that is because I wanted my boys and my girls too. I wanted them to know the feeling that you get when you serve someone else. To be able to come home and say, yeah, we helped out somebody that really needed the help. And so I appreciated that. So with JustServe, that's kind of like on steroids. You get that same feeling all the time because you see it so much. And you see the gratitude that people have too, and the love, because that's really what it's all about. Is the reason we're doing this isn't to make points with God. It's to show that we love God's children. So that to me is the biggest part of it, is that I get this opportunity all the time to be able to show my neighbors that I care for them, that I love for them, I have love for them.
That's
And I know
awesome.
that that's what Taminisha does, the work that she does, and she's so willing to do it and work herself to death, essentially.
Yeah. Man, I work with her quite often with different projects. And I
Yeah.
said, "Do you ever sleep?" I
I
wake up
asked,
and I received an email from her at 1 a.m. in the morning, or
yeah,
I got a message from her at 12 a.m. I'm like,
yeah.
wow,
Well, I asked Pastor Grint, I said, how does she have so much energy? Because I get stuff from her in the middle of the night. And he said, oh, yeah, she pretty much stays up all night long and gets a little bit of sleep during the day. But she's
yeah,
pretty much working on that stuff all night long. So,
yeah. Man, this is awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing all of this with us, Mike.
You're welcome.
We lost
Yeah,
we lost
we lost Mark.
Mark, but we'll keep going. Well, thank you again. Much,
Sure.
much appreciated. I really loved the opportunity to talk with you about service, and the other thing that I also enjoy is that, with that Just Serve, it's for everyone. It's
Yes,
not just
that's right.
yeah,
That's
it's
right.
not for
In
one.
fact, the church says we're separating this. Just for we built the thing, but this calling is not a church calling. This is, that you're going to do this. Just serve is separate from the church. So, and they did that because they don't want the accolades for the church. They want the individual to have the feeling of love and the feeling that they've helped. So,
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think the purpose of Just Serve is truly just to serve. It is to go out there and perform service. We're truly not trying to do anything other than serve people, right?
yep,
It's
that's it. Yeah, yeah. It's not. It's not to get people to say, "Oh, what a great church you have there." No, it's yes, it is a great church, but no, we're not searching or seeking recognition or anything like that. So that's why we've broken that tie there.
that's awesome. Okay. Well, thank you again. Thank you for
Sure,
making the time to meet with us. Thank you for sharing your experiences. It
glad
was
to
it
do
was
it.
great. Yeah.
Glad to do it.
Anything else from you, Mark?
No, I just want to thank Mike for coming over here, telling us about service and rockets. I really appreciate it.
Well, Mark, if you want to become a rocket scientist, it's it's easier than you think. You can do it.
I like it. I'll have to
All
talk with
right.
you more about rockets.
Okay. Sure. I'd be glad to. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, with that, we'd like to thank Mike McGrath for being with us. He is a Just Serve specialist in our area. And thank you once again. So, Mark, close us off.
Well, this was another exciting episode of Brotherhood and Banter. If you liked what you saw, if you feel motivated to serve, go to hook up a browser, go to justserve.org and find an opportunity near you. And if you like this, then wait what we have next for you. It's going to be exciting. See you then.